evening, Buffs fans. I'm Aidan here with Max, coming at you with another Sko Buffs update.
Been a crazy week in the Buffs sports community for the entire school. We have a lot of great things going on and coming up.
Colorado's new freshman quarterback, Owen McCown, gave the offense a boost of confidence in the game against the UCLA Bruins on September 24th. He led the Buffs with a touchdown just at the end of the second quarter, which left the Buffs trailing 21-10. Our football team, however, has some work to do, starting with Karl Dorrell being fired, which we will discuss later on in the show. Mike Sanford has become the new interim head coach for now. Our best chance of winning is coming up next weekend, October 15th at 12 p.m. We'll be playing California, who are 3-2. Let's hope we have a comeback, and if not, just remember, Ralphie always wins.
And now we have a video. That's what it says.
A lot of games to play, which is why I made the decision now. We have 7 games remaining on our schedule, and I'm confident that we have the talent and the will to win the games down the stretch. I have full confidence in Mike to lead this football program. We will be diligent in our search process, and we will be incredibly thorough to get this football program back to national prominence. Both Chancellor DeStefano and President Solomon know how a successful athletic department can make this campus better. I promise you that I will work as hard as it possibly takes to return our football program to glory. Our athletic department has and will continue to provide the resources needed for a successful football team.
CU's head football coach, Karl Dorrell, was fired last week. Buff fans everywhere celebrated after the news hit the headlines. The football program pushed Mike Sanford from the offensive coordinator role to interim head coach after Dorrell got sacked. Sanford has some good experience under his belt. He played quarterback for Boise State from 2000 to 2004. He then coached the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers and later became the offensive coordinator for the Buffs this spring. Most recently, Sanford led the offense at Minnesota. We wish him the best of luck and hope that he'll turn this abysmal season around. We talked about the situation in our newsroom the other day, and let's see what the Sko Buffs team had to say.
All right, class. Colorado Buffaloes, winless start to the season. Fired Karl Dorrell, disastrous tenure. What do we got? What are our thoughts on this?
Hallelujah. Finally.
What else
I'm
we got?
sorry, but man, just was not a good head coach.
I don't know, he made sure that we were better than CSU, and I thought that was the entire goal, so I thought we should have kept him.
I feel like that's a very low bar to have. Literally, I mean, like Jake was saying this earlier, Colorado has not been this bad since the forward pass was invented in the 1890s. I don't think that he gets a pass because we were simply better than, CSU.
The Colorado Buffaloes, they've never had a winless season, right, guys? We've never had a winless season. And we're not going to be favored to win a football game the rest of the way, heading into the bye week before Cal. It's the best chance to maybe sneak a win against the Golden Bears.
Yeah, this next upcoming game is the biggest chance we have to actually win. So we need to capitalize on that. So my biggest issue with Karl Dorrell, I don't know if anybody else can hop on this. Man is completely expressionless. Man is an actual NPC. So this new coach, it sounds like he has a lot of energy, and even if he smiles on camera, that's going to be so much more charisma and energy for me.
You can't lose the locker room if you never had it, right? But the thing is with Rick George and the hiring process is if you look at the last couple head coaching hires, Mel Tucker was hired because he wouldn't cry, because Mike McIntyre cried a lot. Karl Dorrell was hired because he wouldn't leave because Mel Tucker was trying to leave the whole time. So now we're getting someone that is reacting to things because Karl Dorrell didn't. So we're getting a whole reactionary process. But the press conference from Rick George was far more interesting than the Karl Dorrell news because we knew he was a lame duck, right? Where the chancellor of CU says, Phil DeStefano, we are at a watershed moment in college athletics. So this is the decision the Buffaloes made. Was it the right one? What are we thinking, guys?
It was a necessary decision. Whether the financial implications of the decision, which were clearly being avoided for a long time, were too much to put this off any longer.
To me, it's like, where does the athletic department go, right? Because this is the lowest they've ever been. So Rick George goes, "We hired Karl for the right reasons." That was one of his quotes this weekend. "We hired Karl for the right reasons." So does that give you faith moving forward that they're going to hire the next person that's going to do well, when at the time it was universally criticized that they hired Karl Dorrell?
At some point, if the right reasons led to this, maybe they're not the right reasons.
Yeah.
Maybe you should find some different ones.
There needs to be a change either way, because us as fans have been expecting more. We can't go to every game and keep feeling the losses. There needs to be some sort of change, even if it's not the right person, where people are expecting it to go somewhere. It's at the lowest it's ever been. So.
And I know, as someone who's been in the band, having to sit through the fourth quarter with no student section for a good 3/4 of past 2 years, it's pretty embarrassing. And
So the leader has not changed though, right? The leader of the football program, the leader of the athletic department is the same person after 9 years. Colorado Buffaloes have been to 2 bowls in 15 years. One of them was by Karl Dorrell, by the way, in the pandemic-shortened season. So why do we sit here today in October of 2022 with Rick George as the athletic director, and do you have faith in him moving forward that while Mike Sanford is the interim and we don't expect him to be the head coach, that he will make the right hire? Because this is another $8 million on the athletic department's bill of paying Karl Dorrell to just simply not to be here.
Like, the whole program is falling apart. Like, recruitment, getting people to want to play for the school, getting people to come out to the games, that's not really a problem because our student section is pretty good. But, like I said, nobody wants to play for our school, so we end up with the bad players. So we need to have a change in it somehow. That way we can get people to come play for us.
And the student section is pretty good up until halftime.
Everybody leaves after halftime after seeing Ralphie run, because you know what? Ralphie always wins.
You can count on Ralphie.
we had issues this past season with pretty much every good player on the team transferring to some other school. Jared Broussard went to Michigan State. I think his name was Mark Perry, went to TCU. Every single good player on our team, even really just left the school to go to somewhere where they can get more media attention. And I think having an incentive for players to stay at CU can really help the program.
This would be Rick's 3rd coach here at CU, and like Jake said, or like Aidan said, you may have hired Karl just as a guy who wouldn't leave like Mel did, but that can't be the priority right now. We are multiple coaches away from being a great program again. Look at what Lance Leipold's doing at Kansas. Lance Leipold took Kansas from where we are right now. He's got them ranked. He's got them 5-0. He's got game day in Lawrence this weekend. I guarantee you Nebraska's on the phone with him the second they get the chance. Rick needs to be able to find someone who can just get this team back to relevance, back to winning 6 games more than 1 year in a row.
So relevance is your goal. Rick George believes the Colorado Buffaloes are going to one day reach national prominence. And he has never been more confident in that goal than today, is what Rick George said. So are we doing something loony in Boulder? What's going on here? Because Phil DeStefano, the chancellor of the school, does not want to commit any of the budget from the school to the athletics department to cover this buyout. He also doesn't want to adjust any of the transfer rules to make it easier for CU to get all the people leaving other programs around the country. So how do the Buffaloes actually turn this around to be even respectable, let alone Rick George's lofty goals?
So high. We're 0-5, probably looking like the worst team in the FBS, and you're going to say that we're going to be in a national prominence a couple years down the future, and that's the goal. It's just not going to happen in the FBS with how the sport functions. And I think the entire school is now losing faith in the athletic department.
It makes you really question what change needs to be made, because it's not an issue with the facilities that we have, because we have one of the best facilities. We have an indoor place for them to practice and an outdoor place to practice. It's just who's going to take the name, and maybe even if they put in like a little bit more money into recruiting and getting people who are better and like going to make Colorado look better and actually take advantage of the facilities that we have, because we don't have an issue with having nice facilities. We're not willing to put money in to like get the players we need and the coaches that we need.
Thanks everyone for the hot takes. Speaking of hot takes, Let's hear from Troy Finnegan, who is going to tell us about the next Buffs head coach in this week's Buff Banter.
What's up, Buff fans? With Karl Dorrell out as head football coach here at CU, it's never too early to start looking at who could be leading the Buffs into the 2023 season. Offensive coordinator Mike Sanford has been appointed interim head coach in Dorrell's place, but I really don't see a scenario where that interim tag is removed, unless he can get CU to 3 or 4 wins this year. Sanford may be better than Dorrell, but 3 wins against a remaining schedule that includes Oregon, USC, Utah, and Washington doesn't seem likely. Here are my top 5 candidates to be the next head coach at CU. Let's start it off with a bang. Urban Meyer. No, I'm just kidding. My first candidate for the job is Air Force head coach Troy Calhoun. Calhoun is well known in the state of Colorado and has an impressive track record with the Falcons, who appear to be headed for their 12th bowl appearance in 16 seasons with Calhoun at the helm. The former Denver Broncos assistant has been mentioned in CU coaching searches before, but this could be the year that he finally makes the jump to the Power 5. My second candidate is former Virginia and BYU head coach Bronco Mendenhall. Other than having a perfect name to coach football in the state of Colorado, Mendenhall has proven that he can turn around a Power 5 program after picking up the pieces at Virginia and taking them to an Orange Bowl. Long story short, Mendenhall is a winner. He won at BYU and he won at Virginia. He's a solid candidate to lead this Buffs turnaround. My third candidate is ESPN analyst Dan Mullen. Mullen will likely be a big fish in this coaching search. With schools like Wisconsin and Nebraska also looking for new coaches, maybe Mullen gets a better offer somewhere else. However, bringing in a quarterback whisperer who played a big role in the development of Alex Smith, Tim Tebow, and Dak Prescott would presumably be a massive boost to the development of Owen McCown and this Buffs offense. Another option that the Buffs can explore is Alabama offensive coordinator Bill O'Brien. The public is a little low on O'Brien these days after his stint as Texans general manager crashed and burned in 2020, but he was able to lead some productive offenses with some pretty porous quarterback play during his time there. O'Brien may be hesitant to leave the uber-talented, competent ecosystem in Tuscaloosa, but with Bryce Young likely departing after this season, O'Brien may be ready for another shot as a head coach. My final option for the Buffs is CU legend and current Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy, who many CU fans remember as the all-time leading rusher and touchdown scorer in Boulder. Bieniemy was a finalist for the job back in 2020, but withdrew from consideration in the later stages of the process. Choosing a few more years with Patrick Mahomes is obviously understandable, but after being passed on in yet another NFL coaching cycle, he could find that the time to come back to CU is now. There are a lot of directions that Rick George could go in here, and maybe the Mel Tucker debacle scares him away from hiring a big name like Mullen. Regardless, George is under a lot of pressure to get this one right. They say third time's a charm, and for George, it better be. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Troy. Now, Buff fans, it's time for this week's trivia question. As CU looks for their next football coach, we want to know who was the last football coach to lead the Buffs to multiple winning seasons. Is it A, Bill McCartney, B, Dan Hawkins, C, Mike McIntyre, or D, Gary Barnett? Stay tuned for our later answer in the show.
Men's basketball is now in full swing. As they start practice, the Buffs, led by Tad Boyle, are excited to finally be back on the court preparing for this upcoming season. Despite the loss of Jabari Walker and Evan Batty, the Buffs look as confident as ever as the season approaches. They are getting ready to face Nebraska at home for their first exhibition game on October 30th.
Earlier this week, the men and women's team hosted a media day.
Boyle's, it's on me, the camera's on me. I don't know. Be dangerous and compete in the elite Pac-12 terrain. With 2 Ivy League transfers, the team has some fresh perspectives, but won't lose sight of the leadership qualities that they've learned from players like Evan Batty last year. Returners like KJ Simpson are expected to lead the team, but this is not a concept that scares them. KJ said, quote, "Let them doubt us. We want that. We can't expect the Buffs to deliver us some good basketball once this season starts at the end of this month."
The NCAA tournament this year. Head coach J.R. Payne said that she is challenging the young roster to enter into the new leadership positions. She is excited about Charlotte Whittaker's return after a full year of recovering from multiple hip surgeries. We should also be on the lookout for impressive performances from Quay Miller, who is becoming the team's vocal leader. And of course, Buffs legend Shelly Sheets joined the coaching staff, and Payne says that this is a new dynamic good for the team.
You know what they say, look good, feel good, play good. The Buffs will be doing just that this year as they're debuting the new court design for the upcoming season. On top of that, the women's team will be rocking some new threads, both at home and on the road this year. We're excited to see the Buffs flashing a new look as they get underway on the hardwood.
On the 15th anniversary of the Title IX legendary former CU women's head basketball coach, Zoe Paulson, returned to the most beautiful campus in the world as a keynote speaker for the athletics department's anniversary brunch. Barry was the head coach of CU women's basketball team for 22 seasons and racked up a grand total of 422 career wins. She is responsible for creating one of the most successful basketball programs in the history of collegiate sports and for helping build and expand the women's athletics department at CU. Sko Buffs had the chance to talk to Seal about the significance of Title IX and her career at CU. Here is a portion of the extended interview.
Hello, Buff Nation, and welcome to a very special interview. I have with me here CU women's basketball head coach for 22 seasons, 4-time Big 8 Coach of the Year, and 1995 Carol Ekman Award recipient, Seal Berry. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Aidan. It's good to be here. Good to be here with you.
Yeah, so I figured we'd talk a little bit and tell people about the significance of Title IX and exactly what your role and participatory nature in that was. So I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about before Title IX, what women's sports looks like at a university level.
At CU, at my school, University of Kentucky, it was in the intramural and recreation department. So the recreation, you get a women's intramural and recreation director, and her job was to field teams in the sports that the women were interested in. There were no budgets whatsoever for travel, for uniforms, for shoes, for coaching. There wasn't anything even remotely close to something like a sports bra for women or women's basketball shoes. They didn't exist. Probably what I worked at the hardest when I was coaching was bringing the best players to the University of Colorado women's basketball and make it a top 10 program and something that our fans would really, really enjoy seeing. When Jody Conrad brought her Texas Longhorns here, or Marion Washington brought her Kansas Jayhawks here, or Kim Mulkey brought Baylor here, we had big crowds, 7,000-8,000, and it was two top 20 teams playing each other. And you have to recruit. You have to have the players. You can't go out there into battle and not have the players to play against those teams.
To see the full uncut interview, visit our YouTube channel at Sko Buffs Sports. Next up, we will see how golf, volleyball, and our others fared this past week against their rivals after the break.
The University of Colorado men's golf team finished second in the 12th annual Mark Simpson Colorado Invitational. The 4-round tournament had a shortened second round due to bad weather conditions. Sophomore Justin Biewer hit the under par and finished the third individual performances. Fellow sophomore Dylan McDermott finished tied for 5th place in the individual leaderboard. He finished 2 under par.
In volleyball news, the Buffs are continuing their winning pattern. The record is 11-3 after coming out victorious over UCLA with a final score of 3-1. The first half was close in score, and the crowd was on their feet as the Buffaloes dominated towards the end. The dominance of the team is making our Buffs fans excited for the outcome of the next game against.
And he deals. October and the 1-0. Now, Judge is 2 for 3 against Watkins with a home run and a double. He's staying away, 3-0. And the pitch. Foul back. Watkins sets. Deals the 3-1. He walked him.
The Buffs soccer team picked up their first win of the season here in Boulder. Thursday, when they defeated Oregon State 3-2, the Buffs jumped out early with 3 goals in the first 50 minutes. Savannah Kuhlman, Shira James, and Kaylee Webb each found the back of the net during the game, leading Colorado to their 7th win in the season. They take on Oregon State here in Boulder on October 9th.
This past Sunday, the women's tennis team ventured to San Diego for the 2022 Intercollegiate Championships. Elise Ventura took up 2 wins against North Texas, finishing stronger for the Buffs. The Buffs were less than lucky at the CSU John Masick Invitational this past Sunday, picking up 3 losses in consolation play. Here's to hoping next week's match on October 12th in Las Vegas puts a few more wins under the women's belt.
In her first career start, Zoe Watson, the women's club hockey game had a very solid outing. About 13 minutes into the game, the Buffs found themselves down 3-0 against Madelyn University, who were a top team from last season. It was about to become a 4-goal deficit until the save from Zoe occurred in the second period. The Buffs would go to lose 6-3.
The women's not to be out the hot start this season with an 0-3 season, but the Division I men's hockey team has started the season fiery out of the gate. Their 6-0 start has found them at the top of the ACHA standings, behind great goaltending from Liam O'Gwen and balanced offensive attack that has 20 different players on the score sheet. The Buffs have swept Metro State University, San Diego State, and University of Oklahoma. After a 5-game road trip, the team is returning home to the Rec Center in a matchup against the University of Oregon, where CU is looking to extend their win streak to 7 games. We will have the action live on our YouTube channel next October 14th at 7 p.m.
Who's the biggest Buff fan here?
Me! That guy. Sko Buffs! Go Buffs, baby! We're all about the Buffs! Sko Buffs! Woo! They can't contain us. We're the best. We can't be stopped. Sko Buffs! Sko Buffs! Sko Buffs!
Hey y'all, I'm Madelyn, and I'm back this week with your favorite part of the show, Rapid Fire. First up tonight, the women's volleyball team takes on Sanford at the CU Event Center at 7 p.m. Students are encouraged to show up and support because this is their biggest game yet of the season, playing a Pac-12 team. Next up, we have the soccer team playing Oregon on Sunday at 1 p.m. Be sure to show up and support them, as Ralphie will be making a special appearance at the Printout Field. Coming up next Wednesday, our golf team is playing Nevada at first 2 rounds, then the third round on Tuesday. They are playing all day long, so make sure to get a good night's sleep. Our cross-country team is making their way to the Nutty Comb, Wisconsin Invitational next Friday. So if you have a classmate on the team, be sure to wish them luck and to break a leg. Hope you all have a great weekend, because our football team didn't last weekend. Happy weekend, and go Buffs!
Welcome back, Buff fans. It's time to see what our Buffs are up to this weekend. Here, Madelyn Bushy with this week's Rapid Fire. Thanks, Madelyn. Apologies. Looking forward to watching our Buffs compete this weekend. Now it's time to reveal the answer to our trivia question. We asked you, who was the last CU football coach to lead the Buffs to multiple winning seasons during their time here? The answer is Gary Barnett, who posted 5 winning seasons during his stint with the Buffs from 1999 to 2005. Let's hope the Buffs' next head coach can replicate that success on the field.
A lot of time talking about the football team. It's probably getting pretty annoying at this point. But we couldn't let you go without showing you this video of our amazing mascot Chip playing solitaire. That's all we have for this evening of Sko Buff Sports.
Tune in next time for sports-related things like football, soccer, and everything else. Have a great night.